everyone. I'm here with Team What's Up, representing Madagascar, Jaritiani Rahajason and Andrew Slattery. And not only are they a finalist team, they took home a Distinguished Design Award in our Energy Mentors 2026 Power the Community International Design Competition. So, Johari and Andrew, your semester is over. I think you're on summer break. So, good morning to you. And where are you coming from? And thanks for making our time for us. So, Johari first.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Johari. I'm from Madagascar and I'm representing Team What's Up. Yeah.
Uh,
And Andrew.
yeah, sorry. I'm Andrew. I'm coming from Philadelphia. Happy to be here.
Well, great. Well, you all took the opportunity to enter the competition. We had 231 registered teams from 16 countries. We had 56 that submitted compliant designs. We had 28 that made the semifinals. We had 12 that made the finals, and we had 6 that took home prizes. And yours were one of the 6 that rose to the top. So, congratulations. And this is kind of a celebration for that. We want to get to know you, and maybe you can pass, yeah, there you go. And then maybe you can pass along some helpful hints to people who are going to be competing next year. You did the work. You looked at a real community in Madagascar, and you took our design challenge to that. So I've been through your material. Of course, as our judges went through it beforehand, and they gave you the award. So let me start out with the story itself. You're both at Case Western University Reserve in Cleveland. You're from 2 different countries. So Johari, please share with us your road, how you got from Madagascar. I think you went sometime in Japan and got to
Mhm.
Cleveland. So give us a little bit about your journey and what this competition means to you.
Yeah, I grew up in Madagascar for the most of my life, where I really got to see like the energy poverty that we have in Madagascar. And every time there was a cyclone, all the energy infrastructures were destroyed. So this really motivated me to like scale up um, scale up like the amount of change I can make. So it motivated me to apply to an international school in Japan, which I went to for 2 years. Then after that, I wanted to have a more global perspective on energy, which motivated me to do engineering here at Case.
Cool. And Andrew, you're not an engineer. I think you're mathematics and computer science. What is your journey of how you got to Case Western? A little bit about yourself.
Uh, well, it's sort of a funny story, really. I got an email one day from a an admissions counselor saying, "Hey, you should apply to Case Western. We won't make you write any sort of essays or anything." I said, "Sure, why not?" And that's where I ended up. So. Uh, uh,
Okay. And your background, I think I saw on your LinkedIn that you've done some investment type workshops and you do a little gaming, so you're a little bit of the quantitative type.
Yeah, so I guess Johari really first found out about this project and he told me about it and I guess he was looking for someone who could crunch those numbers and deal with the sort of analytical side of things.
So cool, Johari, tell me how it came about. How did you find the contest, and how did you decide to ping Andrew to get him on your team?
Yeah, I really found out about the contest because one of my friends did it last year, and he told me about it. He actually won, I think. I think it was Team Zambezi. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it was Team
Yeah,
Zimbabwe.
yeah. So yeah, he told me about it. I found it really interesting, but I just felt like I was missing something. I couldn't do like all the everything by myself. Like I didn't have much experience in. I had all the ideas sorted out, but I just felt like it just felt a bit too unrealistic. and a bit like the numbers didn't make too much sense to me. So that's why I decided to convince my friend Andrew to join me, and here we are.
And you both met there at Case Western, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah.
Freshman orientation or classes or
Yeah,
Pretty
freshman
much.
orientation, and we're also in the same dorm.
okay, there you go. The it's kind of interesting. This is the second example this year where a team that has won a prize were inspired by prize winners last year. So we
Mhm.
had Team Engawatch out of Kenya, who happened to know a team that won at their university, Swarthmore University in Nairobi, Kenya. And so that catalyzed them to compete and up their game. And they took home a prize. And now this is the second example where you were inspired by someone who won last year. So that's pretty interesting. Where sometimes innovation travels and it can build up in pockets. Everyone knows Silicon Valley is the famous one, but now we have two pockets within Power of the Community that have taken prizes 2 years in a row. Case Western University and Swarthmore University. That's pretty cool. Um, so Jahari,
Mhm.
you mentioned Madagascar and the place that you picked to put your design around. Uh, Salehi, I
Yes.
think you pronounce it. It's a village
Hmm.
there on the coast. And tell us about it. And you mentioned you've seen energy poverty. So give us your perspective of what the fundamentals are on the ground there that were the basis of your design and where you wanted to move forward.
Yeah, well, essentially, first of all, we needed to have like a concise problem in the place. So that those problems were energy poverty, um, poor infrastructure, like that are not resilient to cyclones, and a lot of potential for energy. So Salehi met all those criteria. So Salehi is located on the east coast of Madagascar, the upper east coast. It has it's at the intersection of a river and the ocean. It also has it's very much exposed to cyclones. There's like 4 or 5 very violent cyclones per decade, and every time it passes, it destroys almost 80% of all the infrastructure in Salehi. So people have to rebuild everything. So that's why all the houses are made of wood. They're made of soft materials that can be built up really fast. So another reason why we chose Salehi is that it's one of those towns that produces rice in Madagascar, and like a lot of neighboring towns as well around Salehi produce rice. So really, the waste from rice is like one of the base of our project. So we just like took the rice and the waste, and we integrated that in our design.
And you mentioned energy poverty earlier. How many people have electricity access in a community like Soleil, and how reliable or unreliable is it?
Yeah. So for towns like Salehi, only like the essential buildings get electricity. So the hospitals, the classrooms, and some hotels as well. It's a privilege to have electricity in those towns.
Cool. So I think you proposed a two-layer solution to phasing your electricity supply. Andrew, do you want to walk through what those two phases are and why you picked two phases?
Um, yeah, so we were sort of thinking about the costs, especially. We wanted to make sure this was obviously we had to fit like a teacher's salary sort of baseline, and we sort of kept coming up with more ideas than maybe realistically our paycheck could cover. So at least from my perspective, I think a lot of it was just we have these, core ideas that we really want to make sure we cover in phase one, and then we can go from there.
That's something that's usually not appreciated in innovation, that there's lots of ideas, but the discipline of narrowing them down, and especially narrowing them down of what's affordable. I have what I call my own corollary to the Damon Runyon rule. He was a writer, and he said that, the race isn't always to the swiftest or the fight to the strongest, but that's the way to bet. And I think in these type of innovation cases, you really have to bet on the economics to be sustainable if you're going to come up with a living condition and a design that's going to be sustainable. So that was very, I think, wise of your design. Is you kind of put it through that economic lens to say, hey, what is really can be afforded? And Jahar, you may want to check me here, but I think the salary of a nurse or a school teacher there in Madagascar is about 200 US dollars a month. So
Uh-huh.
you're trying to get an affordability target of about $400 a month. Is that about right?
Yeah.
So what are the two layers of your design? What's the first phase implementation, Jahari?
So the first phase of our design, in the first phase of our design, we were trying to implement the elements that are really concrete and that we are for sure persuaded that like the proven technologies that are gonna work for sure. So we wanted that to be the biomass, the solar PV integration, and like the housing designs as well. And in the second layer, we wanted Salehi to have more energy security, and we realized that Salehi has so much potential for marine energy and for reverse dialysis energy because it's at the intersection of fresh water and seawater. So you can use reverse dialysis to produce electricity, which is very interesting, but it's still an emerging technology. So we can't rely it too much. We can't rely on it too much in the first phase, but it's a very it's probably one of the rising source of energy. Marine energy is one of the rising source of energy. So that's why we decided to integrate it in our second layer, which will come a few years after the first layer.
Yeah, so the first layer is proven solar
Biomass.
and biomass using the rice hulls to generate
Mhm.
heat that can then generate electricity. And then the second phase, you have two untried technologies, both associated with the tidal
Mhm.
uh, situation. One is microturbines that's taken the inflow and the outflow of the tide and converting it to electricity. And then the other one, the emergent technology, is using the difference in salinity to drive that.
Yeah.
So, so it's really important in innovation to have agile experiments, and you built that into phase two of your program. Is you have to learn and deploy because even if microturbines are proven, proving it in that river there is still something that has to be done. I really appreciate that aspect of your innovation and deployment. You're being aggressive, but you're also being pragmatic to phase it like that. So that's pretty cool. Um, Take us through the rice husk plant. So you have lots of biomass. You're growing rice. You have the husks. You collect it. You bring it to a location. What does the hardware look like?
So yeah. So essentially, this is actually like already a proven technology, but not yet deployed. It has already like some small scale to it. Um, Essentially, you put the rice husk into a container, um, which is gonna burn it and like separate the heat and like the waste. It's gonna reorientate the heat to produce electricity, and the rest, like the waste, is gonna like separate through like um, a ventilation system. It's gonna separate the waste into like a container which you can collect. She's,
And this is your base load, so that way when you have solar, that is producing a lot in the daytime, this is your base load for nighttime and when the solar is not as productive, right?
Mhm. Precisely.
Yeah, yeah, and especially also taking account the seasonality of Salahi Madagascar. Obviously, there's a very significant rainy season, and we want to have some technologies that are resistant to that rainy season. Obviously, rice harvest season goes sort of hand in hand with the rainy season, while solar energy is very negatively impacted.
Yeah, I think I read it was like 2,500 millimeters a year rain, and yeah, that doesn't strike me. And I did the conversion. That's like over 8 feet of rain a year or something like that, 8 to 9 feet. So that's a lot. So you must have some pretty heavy monsoons there. Um, cool. Now, someone came up with a inventory of what the uh, household electricity budget is. Was that you, Andrew? And what is kind of the consumption pattern there?
Uh, Well, I think Johari can probably more speak to the day-to-day activities, but
Okay.
yeah, we sort
Yeah,
of found
well,
some. Oh yeah, I'll let Johari take this.
yeah, I just well, I already did the calculations, but I just made the assumptions. So what I did is that I just assumed that um, it's a modest home with like one living room, two bedrooms, and one kitchen. So we really took in consideration that the people like only did the basics, so like charging their phones, LED lights, and maybe a fan. Um, yeah, so we didn't take in like if you compare it to the American household, obviously it becomes obsolete, but it's really just to provide like the bare minimum, pretty much.
Yeah, but if you don't have electricity to be able to charge phones, so you
Yep.
you have connectivity to the world, to have a refrigerator to keep your food and a couple fans and some lights, I mean that's kind of a game changer, right? So that's a step up. Now you kept cooking off the list of the electrical loads. Uh, that could be a very intensive thing. What was your solution for cooking?
I think our solution for cooking was using the gas obtained from the biomass. So yeah, so
Okay,
that's
so
gonna like
biomass there.
yeah.
Cool. Now, you talked a little bit about the houses. So give me a rundown on the house, their designs, uh, and why you went that way.
Yeah, so the houses are designed in such a way that when a cyclone happens, it doesn't break. We wanted to design a house that is cyclone resilient and produces electricity at the same time. We've mounted solar PV on top of it to maximize like sunshine exposure. Um, it's this is also not a speculation of ours. It's a proven design, and it has already been tried in a town in Indonesia, and it's already working there. So
What's the
it's made
shape?
into
You buried the lead.
oh
What's the
oh
shape?
oh the shape is a dome shaped design. So it's shaped like a dome, like this. very aerodynamic, very cyclone resistant. Yeah.
We had winners the first year that were designing for the island of Dominica. They have the same type of hurricane cyclone risk. They just built really sturdy things, but you went the next level that you went to the aerodynamics, so that way that reduces the need for load bearing. What about your materials of construction? Because you also went strong there.
Oh yeah. So for the materials of construction, we went with the ash that you get from the rice husk. We can transform it into cement. I mean cement. So yeah, we really had this spirit of like we even the waste of the waste, we wouldn't want to waste it. So we took that idea and we implemented it into cement.
I like that branding. The waste of the waste, we don't want to waste it. So you took the ash, you make it into cement. It's probably even less embedded carbon than regular cement. So
Mhm.
you get a number of benefits there. And then when the cyclones come through, before it sounded like the houses were mostly tore up, but in this
Yeah.
particular case, between the shape and the materials, they're more cyclone resistant. Uh, well, what about heat mitigation? I think you had something you designed for that.
Oh, yes. So for heat mitigation, we had this idea, which was actually I got the inspiration from one of the projects from last year, that one last year, which was the algae project. I'm not sure which one it was. But essentially, we took the same idea and there is this type of moss, which is called the sphagnum moss, and it's you can like put it on wall and you can grow it on wall, and what it does it is that it's gonna insulate your home, so it's gonna reduce the it's gonna in warm seasons it's gonna reduce um the heat, and it's gonna reduce the fan use and thereby the electricity use, and during colder seasons it's gonna make the home warmer. A company already does this, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so this is like the second example where you guys reached out and scanned the horizon of the world to borrow technologies. You mentioned the dome shape in Indonesia, and now you mentioned the moss was something you picked up from one of the entries last year. So now you might expect two reactions from me. Hey, are you allowed to do that? And if we're trying to solve energy poverty, my answer is heck yes. We that's exactly what we want to try to catalyze, that we're bringing available technologies to communities around the world who have energy poverty. That in a lot of cases this is a supply chain or an idea limitation or finance limitation that are preventing people from climbing out of energy poverty. So borrowing those good ideas and using them, kudos to you all. That's pretty cool. Um, the Talking about the flip side of poverty is actually owning stuff. So who wants to? You had a vision here that this is not a government type owned project or a corporation type owned project. Who wants to talk about what you see as the ownership for this energy cooperative?
Um, I guess I will speak to that one. Um, we sort of wanted to go for the community design. Um, I think Johari might be a little more familiar with the government and politics in the region, but yeah, just sort of everyone's paying for this project. We're not sure we can get one government entity to be able to every family sees the immediate benefit, and we think they would all be able to chip in on that community microgrid system.
And what's the spread, to use financial terms, what's the spread on the cost of the electricity that you envision versus what they're currently paying now, which kind of opens up that opportunity?
It's it's a lot cheaper. Um, you know, you speak to the available technologies, just getting that access out there is really what's more important. You crunch the numbers and it doesn't really ever sound too unrealistic. So it's just about, getting that flow of information and getting those technologies to those energy poverty locations is what it's all about.
Yeah, I think you were projecting a cost of electricity of about 10 cents a kilowatt hour, where right now the benchmarks are somewhere between 35 and 70 cents a kilowatt hour. So you're coming down 3 to 7 times the cost, which that could be an appreciable savings that if you can get it financed would pay back over time fairly quickly. So that's pretty cool. Did I remember those correctly?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, cool. The I think you said in your paper that the for both phases it's about $11 million investment, but you broke it into about a $7.5 million, and then later with the marine expansion about $3.5 million. So talk a little bit more about what that does on the financing side and the risk mitigation, if you will.
Yeah, we in our deployment idea, we really spread it out over. This is obviously not going to be something that happens overnight. This is going to be a more long-term project, and having that community ownership model, obviously, as we are partially way through that deployment, we don't have to pay that all upfront at once. I mean, it can be difficult to find, $11 million sitting on the side of the road. So, being able to uh, work through those in phases and families are able to afford um, the different components of that project individually really helps with the financing.
Yeah, I mean, to get solar panels out there earlier, to get free up some cash flow to get that rice hull power plant going. If you got some of those anchors going, then you can scale with time and build out the deployment of the power.
Yeah, and it sort
Um,
of gets easier as you go.
Yeah, the first one is always the hardest. But it's good that you broke it down into deployable chunks. I mean, the practicality of making sure that things can be kind of phased over time. It also allows the training of the workforce that way. It's kind of like you do the first phase, you save some money on electricity costs and other costs. That money that goes in the bank, you get to train the workforce so the work goes more efficiently. So that phase deployment is pretty wise. Uh, Now I'm going to zoom out a bit and I want to talk back again about your journeys on this. So you're two, I believe you're both freshmen there at Case Western. You picked this community. When exactly did you start the design, and what was the hardest moment of working through it?
So we started thinking to join this competition about last year November, going into
Yeah.
the winter break, pretty much, and we worked on it during the winter break since I was staying over at his house, so we worked on it together during winter break, and we polished it as we went through January, February, and we had it ready on March, and we wanted to to double check everything and like to have maybe another view, another have another person read it and and say and give us feedback. I'd say the hardest part of this project really was that at the start we wanted to integrate like the marine energy into the initial design, but we really realized that it's very unrealistic. We had a lot of ideas, and a lot of them were very unrealistic to integrate. So one of the hardest part was solving that issue and like mitigating the unrealisticness of our project.
Yeah, you're a little bit too hard on yourself. I mean, but that's really wise. You looked at the numbers and you didn't fall in love with your idea. You fell in love with trying to solve the problem and making sure it was workable. So you almost had to figure out how to phase and push out and not be too attached to your pet idea in order to make
Mm.
sure that you actually solve the problem for the community. So that's pretty good. And in doing so, you didn't just drop your idea. You found a way to test it in a way that was lower risk and had pathways for that become a success. So you had discipline, but you let the numbers talk to you and help drive the decision rather than just fall in love with idea and let your passion drive a decision. And you wound up with a path that then accommodates both the needs of the community and also in their out years, giving them a solution with a with a technology that you can try to prove on site. So that's pretty cool. Um, Andrew, I see you do on your LinkedIn that you enjoy looking at financial markets and things like that. So, what did this examination of this microgrid for 2,000 families on the east coast of Madagascar teach you about markets and that you didn't anticipate, but was kind of a revelation, or or how did that supplement your view of markets?
Yeah, there's a really a, a common theme in financial investing that really comes up again. You'll hear like all financial advisors will tell you, diversify your portfolio, and that's really a theme that just came up again and again with this project. Obviously, we have, some fixed capital to work with, or somewhat fixed. It might have expanded a little over time. And the question is, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and how to allocate those into cover your bases for different scenarios and just avoid the risk of ruin sort of thing, worst case scenarios, and just minimize that variance is like sort of my takeaway from it.
Cool. So thinking about your journey, and it's kind of interesting. You started back in November, and you had a long runway, and you were able to fine tune it. Uh, Two of my other teams confessed that they only that won awards. They only started about a month before the design was due. I think you guys probably had a less stressful, and you had more time to polish. But thinking about your journey, and Jahari, you mentioned that someone who was in the competition last year inspired you. What would you tell students and advise them who are thinking of competing in Power the Community 2027? What lessons do you weigh and what would you advise them?
Hmm. So what I would advise them is to be realistic about your project. Um, taking consideration all the possible factors that may affect your project, the community, the even the roads that lead to your village, the the accessibility, the insecurity. Take all those factors into consideration when making your project. I say that's my advice.
Okay, Andrew, anything to add? What advice would you give the students?
Yeah, I think I would give sort of a similar advice. Um, maybe more focused on the project creation itself. It's just yeah, having those key ideas that you really want to make sure get into your final design and just not letting, obviously there's a lot of time to work on this project, but just not letting it creep up on you and suddenly you have a bunch of ideas, but you haven't really dealt with the core bunch first. So you might not find yourself with time to add those in.
Okay, and then the other thing I noticed, I mentioned it earlier, is you all looked across to get ideas from many places. You mentioned the domed houses in Indonesia for cyclone resistance and the moss on the roof. So you also were not afraid to do your homework and go to school on what technologies can provide solution. And you look in various ways. One of our requirements is that you must be able to buy somewhere in the world the components of your design, and so you guys went out fishing. So that's pretty cool. Uh, cool. The Andrew, what was the return on investment on your hour invested in this? Oh, you don't have to answer that. The Andrew shared with me that his prize money just hit his bank account this morning, and Jagari got his yesterday. So that's one thing we try to ensure that not only the students deliver, but we deliver back to them. So did you guys have fun today?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna go
I
to
know.
work
I
right after this.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah. I was just about to go to work in about an hour or so. Yeah. So,
Okay, well, thank you for taking your time out of your day, and thank you for participating in Power of the Community. You guys had a very compelling design. That's not my opinion. That's the opinion of the judges we had in the group evaluation, where three judges saw your design, and then another three judges saw your design in the semifinals. And then we had five judges that looked at your design in the finals, and they all decided that your design and your approach was worthy of a Distinguished Design Award. How you design for the fundamentals of your community, how you approach making sure your design was doable and affordable, and the analysis you put into it, and your realistic approach to technical readiness, that the phase one was deployable. Phase two, where you have those microturbines and using salinity between the fresh water in the river and the ocean in order to drive electricity. That requires a little bit more piloting, but all of those components, passive design using the rice hulls in the building materials for the bricks for your dome houses, all of them made a very comprehensive design. So congratulations. Thank you for joining us. And you guys took home a Distinguished Design Award. So cheers to you. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining
thank you
us.
so much.
thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for putting this project together. I think it's really great what you're doing.
Good. Well, make sure you follow the competition next year. Yes, you are allowed to compete, but everyone's going to see your design, and so you're going to have to up your game even next year. So thank you for joining us, and cheers. We'll post this and we'll let you know when it's online. Thank you, audience, for joining us, and goodbye.